Hey everyone, this is James Patrick back at you, Ableton certified trainer. Excited to show off some other tricks I used in this track to make the whole groove stay interesting. This one I like to call Shootin Holes in it. It's a commonly overlooked stage of finishing a track that I think keeps people's tracks from sounding as good as they possibly could. This is another audio workflow. I'm going to go ahead and cruise us into this track here at this locator. So you notice there's a lot going on there. There's, the little squishy sounds. Let's open those up. These guys. Hit the letter S to solo anything. The squishies are cool. I've got these coin collecting. These little dudes. And then I've got guitar sounds up here. Got some pad stuff up here. And notice I've got these black tracks right next to them. Of course I use MIDI too when I'm arranging and composing and stuff and doing songwriting, but to produce a song and make it sound really, really awesome, you got to start flipping that stuff to audio and shooting holes in it, moving stuff around, slicing, reversing, kind of like we did in a previous video with drums. But in this case, I'm going to focus more on like sound designy elements. So like for instance, my coin collecting sounds, these guys. The MIDI track was like this. I'm going to right click and hit select track content and hit 0 to turn them all back on. And then I'm going to hit S to solo it. We're going to listen to these coin collecting guys. Let's listen to them in the mix. So I liked how that turned out, but I kind of wanted to finesse how exactly it would fade out as the hi-hats came in and stuff. So just like I did in previous video, I just duplicate the track and freeze and flatten it. Or I can bounce out a stem by setting the loop brace up over the whole song. And then I can, employ a stem rendering workflow, like maybe soloing the MIDI track and hitting Shift Command R and then bouncing out a stem and dragging it back in. Those are all different ways to turn things to audio. Oftentimes just duplicating and freezing and flattening is the easiest way to do it. So what I do is I'll take my MIDI track that had the instruments and the keyboards and all that junk on there and all the effects and randomness and everything, and I'll just duplicate the track and freeze and flatten it. Then what I do is I take the original MIDI track that has the instruments on it and I change it to black. So all my tracks that are black, actually, the sound effects bus should not be black, but everything else that's kind of got the black color is the original MIDI instrument. So I leave it in there in case I want it later, which frequently does happen. But meanwhile, I've got the audio track and I'm able to do stuff to the audio I wasn't able to before. For instance, before the keyboard did the ascending arpeggio just right into the beat, and now I was able to grab the whole thing and see the waveform. Instead of looking at these MIDI notes that don't really tell me too much, I can see the waveform, how it's crescendoing up and down, and I can even make cuts in it with Command E, and I can gain stage it. I mean, look, now I can go to this. I could maybe turn this one up a little more to make it a little louder. I can do all sorts of stuff. Maybe I even want it to fade out right at the drum beat or however I'm trying to treat it. I can fade it too by hitting the letter F. I can for sure see my fades even if I'm in automation mode. That also can be really nice. And so what I did here was instead of having it just ascend right to the beat, I slid it to the left, normalized the tail a little bit with that clip editing volume. And now let's listen to how it sounds right after the squishies. See how my squishies waveform is right here? I'll point out real quick that the squishies were right here. But I heard them playing right over. It was too much clutter in that section. So now I resampled the squishies by duplicating and freezing and flattening them, and then I slid them over to the left so they come in right at the bar 13, but they're faded from the previous ones. And then as they fade out, the new audio track fades in for the other central highlighted sound before the trip hop groove kicks. Let's go back here and listen. So now here comes the top. 1, New squishies right on the top. They fade out. So way more control for what kind of sounds in the center stage and everything. Now maybe you noticed that little couple dB bump. Here's my chance to use the crossfades. I'll just grab this and give myself a nice little fade. And now I can decide how long do I want that new sound to fade in for. Let's listen to that again. So I use that technique throughout this track. Another aspect of where that happens is listen to the coin collecting sounds here at the next drop when all the sounds go through a little drum break, and then there's a little bleep there as the whole song switches to minor. Listen to this. I heard that little thing right there. Solo. Hear that little dude? It's right at the end. I was like, that is sweet. We should have more of that. S. Here it is. I moved it over. Grabbed a different section, though. How did I grab a different section? I grabbed that chunk and I moved it over here just by grabbing the slice, holding Option and moving it over. And once I have this here, I can hit Shift Option and I can move this around and find different sections to play with in that moment in time. Wow. Listen. Dope. Couldn't do that with MIDI. Another thing I wouldn't be able to do is offset it by an eighth note, but have it be the exact same sound. I'm going to hold Shift and hit Spacebar to pick up where we last left off, and let's notice where that comes in. Like, that's fun. Let's go ahead and put another one over here on the one here, but hold Shift Option and find a different chunk. I like this. Just one of those. Let's hit the letter. Let's click on it and hit Z to make it nice and big and just decide how much of that we want. How about right there with a little fade out? Yeah, now I can hit X. Yay! Here it is. How about two of those? Command D. There we go. Bwomp, bwomp. Yeah. Those are fun, huh? I could do another one here. We're just option dragging and making slices. I think I want this one right here and Shift Option. I'm just going to go to a random chunk. Yeah. So yeah, this has been a really fun technique show-off session. Again, it involves audio and just adding variation through a couple fun key commands and just listening closely and trying to punctuate each individual moment by removing stuff, making space for other things, and all aided through the visual of just having the waveform right on the track. And we're able to get a lot done this way. So especially with the Live 10 editing on the arrangement view functions, those are all pivoting around making sure that our automation lanes are not showing. So before you do any of these steps, make sure you hit the letter A. That's going to switch you to edit mode and make sure that all these techniques will work. So again, I'm James Patrick, and I'm an Ableton certified trainer like forever, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. JP@slamacademy.com. Shoot me a message. Peace.